Good day and welcome to Caribbean Connect. I am Rayan Kersenhout, your host for this episode. Today, I have a very special guest with me, the Saudi Minister of State of Foreign Affairs, Adel Al Jubeir. His
Hello.
Excellency, thank you for joining us
You're
today.
welcome. It's my pleasure.
I must firstly extend my warmest welcome to Suriname and ask you, how has your experience been so far following the invitation to the 43rd CARICOM Conference of Heads of Governments?
Thank you very much for the welcome. It's been a tremendous welcome for me in Suriname. This is my second visit in 6 months. I'm very impressed with the country. I'm very impressed with the people, and I'm very glad to be able to participate in the summit of the CARICOM countries, with whom we want to build a very broad and deep and important relationship moving forward.
Certainly, you mentioned this is your second visit, you said?
Yes, I was here in February, but only for 2 hours.
Only for
And I promised I would come back, and here I am. And we want to explore opportunities between Saudi Arabia and Suriname on one hand, and Saudi Arabia and the CARICOM countries on the other hand. We have a lot of commonalities that we can take advantage of for the benefit of both of our societies. We believe that we have a very similar worldview. We believe in the sovereignty of nations, in the principle of non-interference, in international law. We believe in the peaceful resolution of disputes. We believe in focusing internally. We believe in empowering youth and women. We believe in instilling a culture of tolerance and diversity. We believe in connecting with the world. And these are principles that I believe Suriname and the CARICOM in general share with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, we also have complementarity.
Yes.
We are very committed to the environment and to combating climate change. We are a desert nation. You are the CARICOM countries are mainly island nations. You are both in a way, but not desert. You have rainforests. We wish you could give us some of your trees. But we're committed to a global agenda of issues and climate change. We are committed. We believe that there are complementarity in terms of investment and trade, whether it's in energy, whether it's in gas, whether it's in oil, whether it's in hydrogen, whether it's in hydropower, solar power, electric power, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in infrastructure and healthcare and tourism. I mean, there are tremendous opportunities between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and CARICOM in general and Suriname in particular. Suriname also was a founding member of the Organization of Islamic Countries.
Yes.
And has played a role ever since. So there are also cultural links.
Indeed.
And there are many things that we can bring to the table to take advantage of that will benefit both our people. The challenge was distance. And we have decided that we will not let distance be an obstacle to better relations. And we believe that 90% of life is showing up. If we don't connect, if we don't meet, if we don't visit, out on a lot of opportunities that can benefit both of our people.
You have mentioned many points in which I want to delve in further. But before I go ahead, you mentioned the distance. Do you foresee any improvements in the travel connections between Saudi and Suriname? Because, of course, Suriname borders Europe, is also in the Caribbean, but is also part of South America. It's quite, would you say, a hub, perhaps, for traveling.
I hope that we will be able to facilitate both travel and transportation between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Suriname. I'm not in the transportation industry, so I can't tell you how assessments are made with regards to this. But what I can tell you is that we in Saudi Arabia are committed to improving and broadening and deepening our relationship with Suriname and with the CARICOM countries. And that includes trade and investment, and that includes transportation and ease of travel between individuals on both sides. How that exactly is done is really not, that's not my expertise, but I do know that both sides are committed to facilitating that. And it will happen, I have no doubt. I just can't tell you how and when.
And when. Indeed, the commitment is important before the developments and the processes are being put in place.
Yes.
So, indeed. But yes, of course, you are here for the 43rd CariCom conference. Are there any agenda points on the CariCom listing that have piqued your particular interest or have gathered your attention?
All of them.
All.
We have, like I said, we are interested in building partnerships. We are interested in building bridges. We are interested in deepening friendships. We are interested in promoting trade and investment. We are interested in coordinating to deal with the challenges of climate. We are interested in making sure that we, as developing countries, have protect our agenda and our interests when it comes to global events or conferences, so that our voice is heard and our voice is strong. So we have all of this is something that's in place. We are looking at how we can increase the contact. As we speak, we have a large delegation from Saudi Arabia going to meet with the Caribbean countries on investment, and this will be in the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
CAIPO headquarters. There will be representatives from our Sovereign Wealth Fund, from our Saudi Development Fund, from our Export-Import Bank, from our oil company, from pharmaceutical, from petrochemical companies. There will be representatives from financial institutions, from the private sector, people who are involved in infrastructure and hospitality. It's going to a large delegation. And the idea is to kick off a process where we have regular contact with the CARICOM countries in order to see where the opportunities are that we can both take advantage of. And as we speak, our Deputy Minister for Investment is also in Suriname with his team to talk to people in Suriname about investment opportunities potentially in Suriname and projects that can be done that would be mutually beneficial, and to set in prior to the conference in the Dominican Republic, which actually is going to be in a couple of days. So he will be going there to participate in that conference. So we're very serious about the agenda with CARICOM. We think what CARICOM countries are doing in terms of environment is critical and important. We believe what they're doing in terms of tolerance and diversity, whether it involves religion or involves culture or ethnicity, is extremely commendable and should be an example for the world to follow. And we support it wholeheartedly because we think that through dialogue, we overcome misunderstanding and we overcome conflict. We share the concern of the CARICOM countries with regards to climate change and its impact on countries' physical borders. We share the concern about the energy crisis in the world and how we can deal with it together. We share the interest in terms of sustainable food production and agriculture with CARICOM, and we want to be part of these solutions. We are very interested in the issue of transportation within the CARICOM countries and how that evolves, because we can learn from that and see if we can't use it in the Middle East. We also want to we think that this region has tremendous opportunities in all the sectors I mentioned, and it's a beautiful region. And we want to also be part of that development. So we come as friends, we come as partners, and we come as people who believe in the long term and people who believe that everything has to be mutually beneficial.
Yes.
And so this is part of the reason that I'm here. And I've had very, very positive meetings and conversations with the various leaders of the CARICOM. I've also had the opportunity to meet with the Religious Council in Suriname, representatives of the major faiths, and I was very, very impressed with their outlook and what they have been able to do, and very, very impressed with how Suriname has been able to use its diversity as a source for strength rather than a source for conflict. That this should be a model for other countries in the world to emulate. And I made sure that I told them that, and I also explained that this issue for us in Saudi Arabia is a priority.
Wonderful, wonderful. There are so many things that I'm gathering from what you've spoken about, including that we can learn from each other and that there are numerous opportunities to strengthen our relations. Um, in light of the recent oil and gas developments in the region, what are your thoughts on the CARICOM initiative for energy security and the development of the oil and gas sector for the region and beyond?
We think it's very important, and we're very supportive, and we want to be a part of it. We are the Saudi Aramco is the largest oil company in the world.
Yeah.
We are one of the largest exporters of crude oil in the world, and we have a lot of experience in this. We have a lot of experience with oil companies when it comes to concessions, when it comes to production, when it comes to sharing agreements, until we purchased the oil assets from the foreign companies in the 1980s,
Right.
and they became wholly Saudi owned. So we want to be your partners in this area. We believe that the world needs oil and gas, needs hydrocarbons in order to meet its energy needs,
Yes.
and that this does not mean we don't pay attention to renewable energy. We just don't see how one can meet the demands of energy without hydrocarbons. We are one of the largest investors in the world in solar energy, in electric cars, in electric car batteries, in hydro energy, in wind and in wind power, because we believe that the future is in that direction. We believe we have a very ambitious goal with regards to reducing carbon. In fact,
Yes.
the goal that we set for ourselves in 2015, we doubled 2 weeks ago.
2015.
We had the goal, we announced it in 2015 to reduce carbon to a certain level by 2030. We doubled that goal 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
We have an initiative to plant 10 billion trees in Saudi Arabia over the next few decades. We have an initiative to plant 40 billion trees in the broader Middle East over the next few decades. We believe that those two initiatives, the Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, will contribute 10% of the total reduction that the world is aiming for, even though we are less than 2% of the population. So we are very committed to having a cleaner environment and to combating climate change. But we believe that one has to be realistic and scientific, not emotional. And we think that when it comes to developing oil and gas, there are ways to do it, and we believe that there is a need for it. People, unfortunately, talk about reducing production, but then when production drops and the price goes up, everybody is screaming and saying, produce more oil. So one time it's we don't need oil because of pollution. The other time it's we need oil because prices are too high.
Yes.
There has to be a rational discussion
Yes.
about this that's based on science, not based on emotions.
Yes.
And it has to be devoid of hypocrisy. We have our friends in Europe tax our oil at more than 200%, and they say part of it is in the name of the environment.
Right.
Okay, then why are they subsidizing coal, which is a bigger polluter than oil? If it's about the environment, then tax coal.
Cool.
There are other areas where we can reducing gases that damage the ozone. Bovines, cows and sheep. Can we study what we feed them so we can have reductions in it? There are other ways of reducing consumption of energy. If everybody checked their tire pressure every time they put gas in their tank, we would have properly inflated tires and we would consume less gasoline. So there are rational ways of dealing with issues, and there's a need also for the industrial countries to help the less developed countries acquire the technology and have access to the capital to be able to move towards a newer area. In Suriname, you're fortunate in that you are a carbon negative country.
Indeed.
You actually export oxygen. That's why we want some of your trees in Saudi Arabia. But there are other countries. Everybody needs to do whatever they can
The
to protect.
majority are not, in fact.
Correct, and we need to do whatever we can to protect the environment in order to leave our children and grandchildren with a world that hopefully is better and cleaner than the one we inherited.
Yes.
But in order to do this, we need to be rational. We have the technology as human beings to deal with this problem, and we have the capital as countries to fund this issue. What is lacking is a serious, rational debate that's based on logic and science, um, not based on emotions. And that's what I hope we will move towards. And in that sense, I believe, going back to make a long story short, I'm sorry,
No, no.
to make a long story short, your point about the energy initiative of the Caribbean Basin, because we
Right.
it's a rational approach to generating energy. It's a rational approach to generating wealth, which then can be employed to acquire technology, which then can be employed to develop alternatives. So we are supportive of.
And we further reinvested in social initiatives because that, of course, needs funding as well.
Yes, yes. It's we have a problem with pollution that was accumulated over 120 years.
Oh.
Who's responsible for it? So there has to be those responsible need to step up and contribute to reducing the accumulation that happened over the past 120 years since the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And we know who those are.
Yes.
Then we have the current input of pollution, where all of us are responsible and need to do whatever we can to stop it. Some countries just can't afford it. Some countries have to burn their fields every few years because they can't afford fertilizer. And in the process, they contribute to global warming. Okay, are we telling those countries you have to starve because you can't burn your fields? Or are we going to give them the fertilizer to allow them to fertilize their field and produce food to feed their people and to export?
Yes.
And I think the second approach is the better approach. So instead of lecturing, we should be offering support. That's what I mean by a rational debate about energy and the dealing with climate change and dealing with environmental issues in general.
Okay. So in your opinion, the discussions surrounding the energy security in the CARICOM are headed in that rational direction, as you've spoken.
I believe so, because you to be energy independent, whether you're energy independent because you rely on geothermal or on hydropower or on solar power or on oil and gas. The objective is energy independence because it reduces your cash outflow, which allows you to invest it internally for infrastructure, education, healthcare, the things that improve the quality of life of individuals. And once you do that, you become more prosperous and more stable societies. You already are prosperous and stable. We want you to be more. You have the challenge that the CARICOM countries have is that they're classified as middle-income countries.
Mm-hmm.
And once you reach that classification, in the old days, 30, 40 years ago, it was a blessing for developing countries to reach that level. Lower middle income, I mean, it was considered, okay, we're out of poverty. The challenge today is when you reach that level, your access to concessionary loans becomes almost zero.
Yeah.
The IMF, the World Bank will say, oh, no, you're a middle income country. We can't give you these developmental loans. Other financial institutions, global, that are designed to support less developed countries will say, you're out of that category, so we can't give you. And meanwhile, the major banks, and again, I'm not a banker, so excuse me if I don't get this right, but meanwhile, the money center banks or the global banks will say, but you don't qualify income-wise for me to give you this loan.
No, good.
So the banks that give you the soft loans say, your income is too high, and the commercial banks say your income is. So you're in that category where yesterday at the opening of the CariCom, the Secretary General of the United Nations spoke about this challenge of
Right.
how do you make these uh,
There's change.
these loans
Yes.
possible for countries in that category. And I think this again, this is for us in Saudi Arabia. Uh, we are a key contributor to international financial institutions, and we are one of the largest providers of foreign assistance in the world. To us, this is important, and hopefully we will be able to work and find a way around it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Um, there's so much I want to just continue on and talk about. However, there's one last thing that I wanted to ask you, and that was on the food security. You've seen Suriname a bit. You've seen our forests. You've seen our lands. There's for agricultural production for the region and abroad, and of course the interest to create food security. It's not just Suriname, of course. We also have Guyana and Belize. What is your opinion? What are your thoughts on the processes to develop food security?
We are a country that is the size of Western Europe, 1/3 the size of the United States, and we don't have one river. We don't have one creek. So we're a desert country. And we live in an environment where, because of desertification in the broader Middle East, we see more dust storms, we see more, and consequently, you see what comes with it in terms of health,
Yes.
respiratory issues, and so forth. So we live in a very challenging environment. And with regards to agriculture, when you don't have the water, you can't produce. So we have to be how we produce vegetables and fruit in order to preserve our aquifers. And we use technologies like drip irrigation
Okay.
in order to be able to maximize the amount we can grow while minimizing the amount of water that we use. We also have investments, and we're looking to partner with outside Saudi Arabia, where we invest in agriculture elsewhere in countries that are blessed with a surplus of water. And then we become a customer by buying the output. So we help countries develop their agricultural industries and become more efficient, and then we become a customer
Right.
for those products. So it's a win-win for both sides. So I look at and then when it comes to agriculture, we also have to be aware or cognizant of the fact that we need to do it in an environmentally friendly manner. So you get into sustainable culture. Can you produce the energy you need for agriculture through solar, through wind, and that makes it sustainable.
Yes.
And again, we are very, very supportive of these efforts. And I know that your country and in this region, people are looking at this. We are looking at, can we work with you and others in the region? We already are in a number of countries for livestock, whether it's beef, whether it's sheep, whether it's poultry. We're looking at vegetables and fruits. Can we work as partners and investors in agricultural production, and then we become a customer? So that's something that we're looking at closely. We have a number of projects in South America, and we want to look at projects in the Caribbean. About what we think of what you're doing.
Yes.
We are totally supportive, and we think that that's absolutely the way to go. Whether we become a part of it as a partner, whether we become a client, that's secondary. But in terms of, would I support something like this if I were a Surinamese? Absolutely. I think it's absolutely the way to go. You want to make sure you have food for your people. We can't live without food. And number two is it generates jobs.
Yes.
And number three, it generates income for the country if you have efficient production to where you can export some of it. So I see absolutely nothing but positive things. And I think that you in Suriname and in the broader Caribbean have a leadership that has emerged in the recent past, last few decades, forward, and that is practical and pragmatic and non-ideological, like us.
Yeah.
Um, and that seeks to look for opportunities and that seeks to generate wealth for its people. And you have people in the Caribbean who demand this. And so between that combination, I think you are moving towards, you are making the right decision and you're moving towards dealing with your challenges in a very rational, I believe, and in a very effective way. Now, we can't do anything about a hurricane,
No.
or we can't do, these things are acts of God, but we can try to minimize their impact by being prepared, and we can try to make our economies and our societies more stronger so that they can withstand any negative that might happen because of natural calamities.
Become more resilient.
Yes, and I think people in CariCom are very resilient and very resourceful. And I think again, it's the your diversity is a source of strength, and your tolerance is a source of strength. And so long as you can maintain that and develop that, you have nothing but positive things to look forward to. I'm a big believer in the Caribbean countries, and I'm a very big believer in Suriname, and I believe you have a tremendously positive future in front of you. And I wish you all the best, and I hope that we will be with you for doing this journey.
But thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your thoughts, stressing the importance of making rational decisions, and of course, the mutual interest, mutual responsibility to move progress along. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you. Pleasure.
And thank you for joining us today, and we will see you the next time on Caribbean Connect.